a move from the 48. Oh, look at this, and onto the straight they come.
Brilliant move there from number 40 to make it through. That left-hander sliding up the inside, going up now over Hawthorne Hill, down Pilgrim's Drop, and it's brilliant stuff here at Brands Hatch.
It's time to go racing in one of the most difficult cars to tame available on iRacing. Welcome to the 2023 Radical Esports Cup UK. We'll make our way around some of the greatest tracks in Great Britain and challenge some of our drivers in a almost 430 horsepower beast. It's Arjuna Kankipati alongside with Cam Rogers. We get set to go racing here at Donington to get things underway. And Cam, we're expecting plenty of action here over a 60-minute timed affair.
Absolutely, it's going to be awesome. We've got 3 different classes of drivers, got a really difficult but very fun car indeed, and of course an awesome circuit as well here for the Donington Park GP track. It's going to be a lot of fun.
And here's a look at that format, 3 classes, and this is broken up by iRating, the score of how much a driver has succeeded in official competition, and it's the maximum iRating of a lifetime that is captured here and broken up therefore into Pro, Pro-Am and Am. 17 drivers maximum in each of those classes as they fight for 2 hospitality tickets to a Radical Cup UK round of their choice in 2024. 60 minutes, a mandatory pit stop. Cam, it's an interesting challenge that these drivers have around the full Grand Prix layout of Donington Park.
Yeah, not always used. Often we cut off the Melbourne hairpin, but it's awesome to have that one in, and Fog TS's as well. Should be a lot of overtaking action into that part of the track, but it does just make it a little bit more tricky. And of course, with a 60-minute race and a mandatory pit stop, there's going to be some strategy coming in for these drivers as well. When do they make that pit stop, and can they make some overtakes off the track through that as well? So it's definitely going to be a couple of things for the drivers to look out for. It's going to be very tricky, but a nice prize on offer as well for them to win. It's definitely something that I would like to have a go at next year.
Especially once you've had that virtual experience of understanding what these cars are all about. Here's the schedule. Of course, Donington just the start of, like I said, a trip around some of the greatest tracks in Great Britain. Snetterton, Brands Hatch and Silverstone, all the longer layouts as well, which means that there's more technique in some of the cases required. Plenty of passing opportunities to come as well, spread out over the course on our way into the start of December. It's a really fascinating journey, Cam, that these drivers will be going through.
Absolutely, and they are the big boy tracks as well in the UK. We have some quite tight and twisty ones as well, but these are the proper Grand Prix tracks. They're going to be able to get up to full speed with these cars, use all of the aero, all of the grip that comes with them, and that certainly makes it a little bit more of a challenge actually with the higher cornering speeds, as we'll see at a lot of these circuits. There is a lot of them, especially around here at Donington. So many medium speed corners for you to balance the car through.
So the drivers get a brief warm-up session. The qualifying order has already been set. They were just unleashed for the qualifying session, and now a chance to switch into race mode. And sometimes an important thing, because in sim racing, sometimes we ask the drivers to flip the switch and go instantly. If you are curious what the weather conditions are, well, we're running into the later part of 2023, not just in the real world, but Cam in the virtual world as well. 20 degrees Celsius on the track, and, well, you've got 14 km/h, 15 km/h gusts of winds to play as well.
Yeah, tricky conditions, a bit slidey for the drivers out there. And of course, the wind will be taken into effect in the fast corners. So definitely a lot more for the drivers to think about than just going fast. So that might actually introduce some mistakes over the course of the race. And that's something that the drivers will have to eliminate, because especially in a 60-minute race, the consistency is going to be a big, big factor.
Now, this car is mostly used in one-make series around the world, and with, 425 horsepower, just about 725 kilograms. Cam, it's very much a tricky car to tame, and one that is very much a almost LMP2 level of performance, but in that still open cockpit sort of an experience.
Yeah, it's crazy as well, because the car's just so small compared to some of the sports cars that we're used to seeing around the world. So it's a really proper nimble car, loads of grip, very difficult to tame indeed. And I'm sure we're going to see a bit of a disparity in the skill level, I guess you'd say, with some of the drivers, and that's why we've got it split up into the different the categories as well, to give some different classes for the drivers to race in, because some of the drivers who may be newer to this style of car, they are going to be struggling with just how fast, just how much speed you can take into some of these corners. And
of course, each of those classes scores points separately as well, so that's going to be an interesting talking point. They will battle on track together, but be classified in the points separately. We'll talk you through all of that, though, as we get ready to go for what is going to be 4 fascinating races, of course, starting here in Donington as the winter begins to set. The track conditions very cool. Let's run you down how they finished up in that qualifying session, how they'll start the first race of 4 in this 2023 Radical Esports Cup UK. It's Nathan Moore alongside Matthew Crisp, and with 310 splitting them. It'll be interesting to see how they battle in the early stages. These are all the pro machines on the front row. It's Crofton Woodhatch and then Hibata Banana, the first Pro-Am machine that share the second row, with Dan Webster and Andy Jones behind them to line up 5th and 6th positions. James Dawson and then Paul LeMay, 7th and 8th, with John Hutchinson and Adam Grefson rounding out your top 10. Very much seeing the pros and the pro-ams mixing with one another. It's Graham Brown and then James Pinkerton, 11th and 12th positions, with 13th going the way of Daryl Taylor. Martina Ward is alongside with Damien Gee, Paul Clark, Toby Ward and Oliver Moore. The first of your AMs back in 18th position. It will be David Rolliston and then James Child bookending the top 20, with Robert Woodward and Ben Bennyworth in 21st and 22nd positions. It'll be Carl Chase and then Phil Webb on the 12th row of the grid, and we're still going with Matt Cheverton, Scott Nervesa, Lewis Benny, Jane Prius, and then Gabriel Limas and Andy Thomas through the top 30. Still 7 more machines or so to come. Stephen Kernick, Peter Reed, Jack Ellis, Chris Humphreys, Ben Weston, and then Mike Busson, the first driver with no time on the board as we see the gulf through the field. It'll be Adam Locke at the very back, getting ready to go from 37th positions. What are your expectations then, Cam, as the drivers get ready to rumble here at Donington?
I'm going to say the first couple of laps are going to be pretty chaotic with all the drivers then, especially with the mixed up grids as well, the mixed up classes. You're going to see drivers trying to get drivers of other classes in between them. But as we go for 60 minutes, let's see what happens.
Here we go for the 2023 Radical Esports Cup UK. There's already a bit of a drama at the start. Not a handful of cars getting away poorly, plenty of cars getting away poorly. There's drama for some, but in through the opening corner, Nathan Moore's challenge is going to be plentiful. He's already down into 4th. More drama off of turn number 1 as the cars descend in through that opening sector and now hope to try and get their tyres up to temperature.
Yeah, standing start as well makes it very difficult for the drivers to have any sort of preparation coming into the race. And that was probably about 4 or 5 drivers having issues in that first sector already, coming down the hill, but then up towards the front, it looks like they're all going through very nicely indeed. Of course, we'll look out for the different classes of the drivers as we gain more cars going off at McLean.
That was Andrew Jones, and the number 4 will filter back onto track and now try and get some speed back underneath them as they head up towards the Starkey Straight. You can see that Martin Crisp will lead them with Banana tucked into 2nd. Woodhatch and then Moore Webster scored behind them, and going deep in through the chicane. That's a mistake from the 32.
Absolutely, Banana dropping down the field from 2nd place, going to be into about 8th as you get going again in towards the Melbourne hairpin, and that is not what you want to be doing on this opening lap, because all the drivers are so close together. If you make one small mistake, you're going to be dropping down quite a few positions, and of course he's dropped back behind his class leader now of LeMay in the 7th place.
It's absolute chaos to end this opening lap, and Martin Crisp will be delighted to see himself come to the end unscathed. You've got Woodhatch and then the pole sitter Moore tucked in behind to round out the podium spots, but it's a bit of a break breakaway at the top 8. Moore and now Taylor going to be alongside as they head up in towards the opening corner, deep under the brakes, and this is exactly what the AM driver will want, to put plenty of separation between themselves and the rest of their class competitors.
Yeah, this is a really good showing as well from an AM driver. Of course, iRating is not necessarily the 100%, but so the 100% ability of the driver, but it's certainly a really good indication. And maybe an inexperienced driver will have a low iRating. Side by side, though, as we come up the hill through Schwann, it's a very important corner coming up the kink in towards McLean's. It looks like Moore might just be losing out that position. Yes, Taylor dives up the inside for 9th.
And now Matthew Crisp has dropped down to 4th position as well. So there's been plenty of drama as we're still only on the 2nd lap of this race. Wherever you look, we're seeing separation as expected between the classes. This is where the storylines will continue to develop. Who's got some actual experience in this car? They're all fighting with a fixed setup, though. That equalizes things just a little bit. The 4 of Andrew Jones locks up the front brakes, but able to slow down just in the nick of time. And after running wide on the opening lap, back up to 11th for the time being.
Yeah, he's very keen in there and actually just about got away with that one. It's very easy to run over that chicane like we saw Banana do on that first lap. And there's a few some mistakes coming in behind, some flashing of the lights as well as drivers try and sort of put some pressure on their rivals. Loads of different lines being used there in towards the final corner as well. So drivers still just settling down into this race.
And with 37 cars, I do believe that when we got this race underway, we actually started with a couple of cars in the final corner basically having to wrap around the hairpin, and so that maybe caused part of the issues that we had. Again, 1 mandatory pit stop. We'll see how the drivers elect to play that, but knowing that you have that in your pocket, if you see some of these battle packs, maybe you'll elect to try and divert yourself from some of their attention. It's Taylor and Moore that swap around once more.
Certainly, it seems like the old hairpin and the momentum coming out of it is a very good overtaking opportunity up through Starkey's Bridge and Schwann's Curve. They swap around 1 lap later, and looking at that driver of Jones we were just speaking about, the 4, he dropped down a load of places at the final corner, maybe getting a slowdown or something like that. Had a pretty bad run out of that final corner. Maybe that's what we're seeing as well for some of these drivers over the course of the race. Definitely something to look out for. You can push track limits quite a bit in certain corners, especially there through the Focus ESs.
Let's see if we can take a look at the start. And initially poor start from your pole sitter, but then further behind, just 3 wide, it doesn't end well, and at least 2 cars go around, but it just continues as they stumble over each other into the opening corner. Fortunately for Paul Clark, initially was fine, and then more drivers just scampering all around.
Yeah, obviously some of the drivers not 100% ready in terms of the car, but look at all these cars though down this front straight. There's definitely been some things happening at that final corner. I think that's still Jones in that yellow car. He's going side by side, or at least was for a little bit of moments. In behind actually Rolliston and Ward having a battle in towards the first corner at Redgate, but it seems like Rolliston able to hold on to that one. But still the drivers definitely after 3-4 laps into this race still trying to find their place on the track, because sometimes qualifying isn't always the order of the the speed of the drivers.
No, absolutely not. That is the thing to remember. The pace on 1 lap, even with a fixed setup, is going to be very different over the course of a run where tires are going to play themselves out. Nathan Moore back up to 2nd and now tucked up behind Crofton Woodhatch. Crisp has held on relatively well after stumbling back from the lead, but it is one of those cars. High downforce, dirty air. It's difficult to run in line behind, and it's now 3 starting to build their advantage to those behind.
Yeah, I definitely think the dirty air is a big factor, as you're mentioning, with just how fast these cars are, the amount of aero that's on them. You have to really actually be careful, especially in so many of the fast corners that we have around here. But it seems like the braking seems to be a little bit tricky there. As actually Woodhatch, he makes a mistake in towards that final corner. That's going to be a run for Moore down this front straightaway. It's going to be the outside of Redgate. It's a very difficult place to make the overtake, but what you can do is get the run down the hill.
And they got traffic in front as well as they work out of the opening corner. Webster clatters over the curb in through turn 1, and now down the hill they will plunge. Got to remember that there's still a long way to go in this race. They've had 4 laps complete and only 6 minutes done in this one, and as they run themselves, I think, past Damien Key, should be able to potentially get on through, but not without a moment of consternation there, and Moore goes slightly defensive to hold off Webster for a moment.
Yeah, that almost got a little bit awkward, but they managed to get away with it as Webster really thought that was going to be an opportunity, but not quite enough this time around. And that has actually closed up the door slightly for Crisp and Dawson, just edging ever so slightly closer. Top 5 all in the pro category directly fighting for spaces. Crisp, a slight defensive line there, actually coming down that Starkey straight. Maybe just thinking the Dawson having a bit of a run, but doesn't look like to be making an overtake just yet. But this is a very good place to send it down the inside.
Toby Waters dropped down slightly in the running order to the 18th position, and boy, what a gaggle that he's been deposited into as well as these drivers slip their way through the S's. It's the battle for 13th effectively, and the pros, the pro-ams and the ams somewhat overlapping here, and again, they're not fighting for points together, they're fighting for track position, and it's Cheverton in the 390 that's up to 16th spot.
Yeah, it's always an interesting one when you have multi-class, but with the same actual car as well. Always has a spin there on the outside of the final corner. Definitely looks like to be a solo spin there, and really losing out a lot of places just off on the outside, way off the racing line, not having any grip.
And so that's Cheverton's quest for 13th, at least provisionally, coming to a close. Darrell Taylor's behind Andrew Jones as we work down the hill once more. And now with the separation starting to build just increasingly between the drivers, we've already discussed how the conditions are relatively cold. It's that wind as well. These cars so reliant on the downforce, on trusting the car to stick underneath you. They'll catch some of these drivers out as well without a shadow of a doubt, Cam.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got the wind sort of going over the front of the car. Obviously, that's effectively more air, more downforce. But if it comes the other way from the back, that takes downforce away. And then, of course, the sideways, putting lateral forces on the car in some of these corners as well could be very difficult. And so it's definitely something the drivers will feel in the cockpit, especially when it is that fast, 17 Ks. If it's just a few Ks, 5 Ks, maybe not so much, but 17 would definitely make a difference. And especially with the long stints that we're going to be getting in this race, as you mentioned, a mandatory pit stop, but still an hour-long race. That's definitely something that drivers will need to factor in as the tyres start to wear down a bit.
In through turn 1 they will go as well. I see Nathan Moore still just lurking behind for the time being. See LeMay, the Pro-Am leader. Moore's dropped down. I'm not sure if we necessarily caught what happened there, but after such a good run, there's going to have to now be some work to climb back on forward. This is, of course, where all of that action has been happening, though, as they're side-by-side down the hill in front of the top 2 in the AM category. There's going to be some contact. Pinkerton holds on to it, and just about some great car control on display.
I thought he was going to be looping that one around, but as you say, just held onto it, but he's going to have a bad exit out through the old hairpin. Roddeston is getting the run up the hill, bit of a slice off over to the left-hand side of the track. He goes in deep, though, into McLean's. Can he keep on the track? Yes, he can. Roddeston will have the run, though, up into Coppice, and that should be the position made by virtue of a mistake from behind. But look at the gaggle of cars. Bit more contact between the two as they come onto the back straight. They all go for a spin. 5-6 cars involved.
And it's going to mean that in the AM class, that's Adam Locke in the 555 that will scamper on through and take advantage. You've got Webb as well in that number 6 machine that is second in the AM category as well. But as Pinkerton now tries to pick up the pieces, Bennyworth in the mix as well. That was a bit of a clumsy battle in that middle sector.
And it was just such an awkward place to have a crash because there's 4 cars coming in behind us. I think that's Bennyworth losing a position. It is Chase dives up the inside in towards the hairpin. Pretty nice move there. A bit later, but certainly very well timed at the same time. Caught Bennyworth unawares and not quite able to defend from that one. So inside the top 16. Let's see how this one happened. You can see it's just a chain reaction. When one crashes in front, everyone's coming in. They don't really have enough time to avoid at a fast right-hander like that.
And it's just one of those things as well where it's this type of racing, and it's a car that's meant to develop racecraft as well, let's not forget. And so these are drivers that in this first round will have to hope that the next couple of rounds will go slightly better for them as back up towards the front. It seems as though Woodhatch and Moore may be in danger with 10 minutes now complete on the clock of pulling away from those behind. Webster increasingly under pressure from Crisp, Dawson, and then LeMay Cooper, and then McCutchinson in their own little gaggle behind. We aren't going to be talking too much, I feel, about tyres overall, as there's a swap around. Ben Cooper gets up the inside of LeMay for the Pro-Am lead. But managing the heat that the tyres are having to deal with, Cam, is part of the challenge of this car.
Yeah, you can definitely over push them. We've seen the drivers struggling a lot, especially on the rear tyres, it seems, just being able to get that traction out of the corners. So if you start sort of overworking them, then that's just a snowball effect. It gets even worse because then you start sliding them more, you put more temperature into them, then the pressures go up and then you lose even more grip because of the pressures. So it's definitely a big factor to consider, especially on the long runs. In one lap in qualifying, maybe you can drive in a certain way, but when you get into the stints and you have to go lap after lap, you definitely want to be keeping as consistent as you can. But the way these drivers are going so far, they're really pushing it to the limit.
I'm enjoying some of these onboard shots that we get as well. The Radical, a car that has evolved so much. That was one thing that I was remarking on just when we were chatting before we went live. The fact that the steering wheel now has a dashboard display unit in it. Something that I definitely would have necessarily thought. LeMay with a poor exit though is going to allow McCutchinson to slip on through. You'd think around the outside on the entry down into the S's as easy as you'd like, but Bennyworth, Pinkerton and Chase have resumed the hostilities once more.
Oh, lovely three-way battle here, even four-way with Car just in behind them as well. And of course, this is for position as well in class, at least with Chase and Bennyworth. And then actually, two in behind, Pinkerton and Rolliston. They are all the Pro-Am category drivers. So this is for direct position, direct points as well. And that is, what's that going to be, about 6th position Chase is in class as well. So definitely some top points for them so far. And these are the important ones, because when you have these direct battles, of course, it's simple points. It's not like you're battling someone who's completely out of your class where you're almost wasting time by doing it.
No, it makes it so much easier to judge how much to fight as well. That's the other thing. They're not split up after qualifying either. They could very well see an AM machine start up towards the very front, and at the same time Pro machine starting towards the very back, as that's the 33 that's had another slip up for poor Oliver Moore. Continues to be a struggle after such a promising start, and we'll bring it down to pit lane and hope to try and maybe get some fresh tires onto that. Remember, one mandatory pit stop that will be already now served as the leaders still continue to run, and Nathan Moore increasingly close to the back of at number 20 of Woodhatch.
Well, Webster has dropped off and is now right under attack from Crisp and Dawson. It was 3 and 2, but it's now 2 and 3 inside that top 5. We've really seen that split turn around, and the gap wasn't really bridged necessarily from Crisp and Moore. It was just Webster dropping back into it. So maybe a small mistake here and there. Obviously, it's only about a second that he's dropped back. Definitely something that he needs to try and rectify over the course of this next phase of the race as we get into this middle phase. Definitely be a factor. And some drivers we've definitely seen have... Oh, actually, is that car with no rear wing? That white one's been up to the final corner.
Yes, but it's about to get worse, unfortunately, for Damien Gee, who was, I think, already trying to come down to the pit lane because poor Toby Ward had spun around and there was nowhere for poor Gee to go.
And I mean, he does come forward a little bit into him, but yeah, he's right in the wrong place, wrong time. It didn't really do too much more about that. That is just very unfortunate that they were both at that part of the track at the same time. As here's Graham Brown. He's had a couple of issues there, having a bit of a slower run at the moment, currently down in 25th place.
And I think it's just for him finding out that 425 horses can't necessarily be deposited directly onto the tarmac there, able to spin it back around, but these are definitely tricky machines to handle, and it's now with 15 minutes complete that maybe we're starting to see who's the most consistent and who's the best in the longer run. Woodhatch and Moore still, as we mentioned, breaking away. But I'd prefer to be the driver behind. I like to be the one with a mandatory pit stop, understanding where the driver in front cam is a little bit faster than me and maybe learning and finding ways to do something in that window.
Yeah, unless you think you're massively faster, and if you get in the lead, you're going to pull away. You might as well sit behind for now. They're obviously pulling a gap. Their speed is actually very good. Woodhatch, his last lap that we just did was a 22.6, when his best lap is a 0.5. So it's only about half a tenth off the fastest lap of the race that they are doing. So they're at absolute top speed so far, and just really, to be honest, doing those consistent times. So in Moore's case, he might as well just follow Woodhatch.
Yeah, I think this is potentially the two, at least here today, that will battle. After this, we're over to Snetterton, let's not forget. Potentially could be very different there, although similar sort of circuit in terms of the dynamics that you want from the car underneath you, and so maybe that will be one of the stories to keep an eye on for Ben Cooper as well as McCutchinson and LeMay, they have slowly been pulling away from those behind, but also losing some margin to those in front, as that's pulling to the side of the road. Just some more traffic just getting out of the way. Traffic's going to be an interesting one in this one as well, Cam.
Yeah, and again, it's the same situation where it's a single class of cars, so they're not massively slower because maybe they're going to be 2 seconds lap slower at the lower end of the track. It's not like in a multi-class race where you have cars that are 5, 10, 15 seconds lap slower, faster than each other. So that just makes it a little bit more difficult. You need to have those lapped runners being a little bit aware in the mirrors, but also the faster drivers coming through as you have a battle for the lead.
Here we go, as Nathan Moore said enough's enough, and Pearson's car looks to try and switch things back as we descend down the hill, and you know what? He's there. He's in the grass for a moment as well. They'll run themselves side by side for the lead, working down in through the crane of curves, but it's going to be through the old hairpin where maybe the inside has got to try and give some room, but Nathan Moore has got enough confidence to keep it alongside as we now work towards McLean's.
Can he get into the braking zone though? He's around the outside, slightly longer, a few more meters, but he's done it, I think, just on the brake zone. No, on the outside. Moore's going to hold it and try and make this work, or would actually say on the outside line, in towards Copis. Moore up the inside line. He's just been squeezed there on the apex, trying to keep his footing out onto the back straight. The two remain side by side for the whole lap.
Oh, that was remarkable, and it's allowed those behind to close. Webster, Crisp, and Dawson have joined the fun, and Moore backs out of it in towards the S's. 2 becomes 5 in the blink of an eye, and we've still got 42 minutes to go. And again, a mandatory pit stop to come. These drivers will recognize that this race could be won with an execution in pit lane, because it's not an easy pit entry here by any means, Cam, and these drivers will know they've got to take every single 100th and 1000th of a second that they can.
Absolutely. We've seen drivers spinning it up on the exit of some of these corners, and especially coming out of that hairpin. As you say, you've then got to come hard left. You're on the right-hand side of the track naturally with the racing line. Then you've got to come hard left. It's certainly a very difficult situation, but someone whose life has just become a little bit easier is Webster, because they caught up just a little bit more with that big battle. But over the course of pretty much half a lap, I think they've just pulled it out by another couple of tenths, such as the pace of Moore and Woodhatch. Their last lap was well into the 24s, so they were almost 2 seconds a lap slower there by battling.
And Andrew Jones, unfortunately, has seen that number 4 go around. He's lost him some time in that DCWR machine, fighting for a Pro-Am championship here at the very start of the season. Have you had the pleasure of racing this Radical SR10 so far, Cam?
I have not, but after watching the first few laps of this, definitely something I need to go try out. It looks like a load of fun. I do like these cars, these higher downforce, grippy cars. Yeah, definitely looks like something that needs to add to the list. I
was going to say that I remember driving the old Radical, but this one looks a whole lot more fun. Martin Crisp in the Alcantech NHR colours up the inside of Dan Webster. Can James Dawson follow as well, getting the horses down on the ground, but it's in towards the final corner where it's still potentially a chance for Webster to defend. He backs out of it, sees Dawson now run wide, and Webster has to get back onto the brakes as the taillights illuminate. Mistakes being made, the margin up to the top 2, growing once more.
We're seeing this, the braking in this car be very, very difficult. We've got another drive. There's a James Child having a spin. Is that into the hairpin as well? I think it is. And is that some damage on the car? Maybe a slight crabbing, or maybe it was just the just this, or the angle there was coming into the corner, or just losing it on the exit of the corner. Is he going to go into the barrier? No, he's going to keep it there, but maybe the damage was from previous.
Yeah, that's the thing. We, of course, had 37 on the grid at the start, and it was pretty chaotic for most of them. A couple of them started in that final hairpin, let's not forget. So the scars of war might be showing for more than a handful. And now with only 10 minutes to go till we'll reach the halfway mark of this race, the drivers still just maximizing their way around the track. I've just realized this, but for Radical Esports Cup UK, we're racing a left-hand drive machine.
Yes, we are. I believe the Radical, maybe the SR1 at least, can come in like the right-hand drive format, but it seems like we're left-hand drive here. And to be honest, even as a Brit myself, in the sim, I just prefer left-hand drive. The right-hand drives are like the LMP3s and such. It just puts my brain into a weird situation to figure out. It's very weird, actually, driving right-hand drive in the sim.
I was going to say, as someone that grew up driving on the right-hand side, the correct side of the car, and now lives in America where we drive on the wrong side of the car, that it still boggles my mind sometimes when I have to switch back and forth how I don't make mistakes. Nathan Moore, new fastest lap of the race. I think it goes to show that tyre wear maybe not a factor. It's more about the consistency as the fuel continues to burn off and the car balance changes underneath you. That will be a major factor as well. Ben Bennyworth and Phil Webb. It's a Pro-Am and an AM machine fighting for 15th position.
And this is fairly important in the AM situation because look up ahead. Adam Locke in the 555 13th position. He's made up 23 places over the course of this race, basically starting at the back of the grid and now is leading the AM category in that 13th position. So great first sort of 20 odd minutes of the race for Adam Locke. I actually believe he had a teammate at Quartermass for Ben Bennyworth as well. So a couple of teammates up there, but of course Locke in the AMs and Bennyworth in the Pro-Ams.
Gotta say, quite like some of these liveries that we're seeing for the first round of the championship. We'll see how drivers evolve their looks over the course of the season, but there's some nice little decal painting pattern work going on here that works quite nicely, and you're right, the teammate will continue to maybe not intentionally try and slow down anyone's charge, but play the team game nevertheless. And the left side of the screen, just look how many drivers inside of the top 20 effectively have plus green next to their name as challenge for the race lead comes once more. It's Nathan Moore going faster and faster lap after lap.
But Woodhatch is holding on and he's putting his car in the right places to hold on to this lead that he's had for quite a while now from the first couple of laps of the race. And Moore, of course, dropping down one place. Woodhatch going up a couple from that third place so far, getting past Crisp as well. But certainly an awesome battle opening up between these two. Moore really getting a run there up the hill in towards McLean's, but can't find a way through just yet. And we saw with their side-by-side battle a few laps ago just how much Woodhatch is going to put it on the line.
Remember the white numbers for the pros, the greens for the Pro-Ams, the yellows for the AMs. They all score points separately on track, but they're fighting for track position nonetheless together. In through the shortcut that we could take to the right that would lead us back to the line, we instead take this extended double hairpin layout, which this Donington Park track has been used for many a top-level endurance series to run its pre-qualifying stages as Ben Cooper's gone around at the S's.
And he loses the Pro-Am lead as well. LeMay goes through for that 7th place, and we're going to get another driver coming through as well. That might be a lap driver there. But let's see how this one happened. In towards the Fogarty S's, they're going to be a big chunk of the curb. No, just loses it. It wasn't really a huge chunk, but just enough to unsettle the car. Goes for a spin. Saved it pretty well, though.
We have clearly seen just how important it is to manage the momentum and the transfer of weight on this car as Darrell Taylor and James Child get a little bit miscommunicated with some traffic. It's allowed their margin to split themselves on up, but we have just clearly seen this is a difficult car, and once again it's gotten a bit darker, so once again the balance of the car will be shifting around underneath them. And as I was trying to mention before Cooper's unfortunate spin, this track has been used for many a pre-qualifying endurance series where you've got to set laps without running off the track. And Cam, I've got to say, no matter which version of that chicane that you use, Donington Park is awful for setting clean laps.
Oh, it's so difficult, and especially I would say this layout that we had the Fogarty S's, the chicane's slightly quicker than Roberts if you go to the right-hand side for the national layout. It's so fast, and the curbs are pretty flat, so in theory, you think you can use them, but obviously if you use them too much, you will be getting the off-tracks from the simulation. And as you say, if you're trying to do one of those situations, some places have it where you sort of have to do like a 10-lap run in a row without getting off-tracks. That could be very, very tricky and frustrating, but that just shows you how difficult this track is and why it's one of the sort of the most used in the country.
Yes, it is definitely most used for a reason. It is a classic for sure, although RaceSpot's own Will Chadwick would argue that Alton Park is the best track in the UK. I'm sure our viewers have plenty of opinions on what they think is the best track. Battle for first, battle for third, we look at both of them. The Pro-Am and Am leaders are now somewhat split out on track, so they're not worried about too much. You've got third and Pro-Am, that should still be a focus as well. I've got to say, with 37 starters, we still have 34 cars out there and running. There's a high level of drivers running into issues, but Cam's still sticking out there and showing proper racing guts.
And that's what we love, especially in that first lap. We saw there's probably about 4 or 5 cars going off, even just before we got to turn 1. But they're still continuing on in the race, which is good. And especially when you go on our race, you might as well continue, see what happens, and just wait for something maybe to happen for some drivers ahead. As more had a bit of a look there, but what is going to happen up at McLean's?
And so this is that battle that we were talking about for Pro-Ams. It's Ward and Jones for 9th overall, 3rd in class. There's an incident point limit, by the way, for this race. We should just shout that one out. 15x incident point gets you a drive-through penalty, and then every 10x after that, we'll see you with additional drive-through. That's going to be a great move from Jones to get on through and take advantage of just a slip-up. And it's momentum, it's that shifting nature that just continually will shift things around. And Crofton Woodhatch is holding up strong at the front under what is relentless pressure from Nathan Moore. It does seem as though Woodhatch has got his own contingent in the YouTube chat right now. They'll be delighted with this defensive display so far.
It's always good to see when the drivers have some nice support there in the chat especially, and he's doing such a great job, isn't he, at this moment in time. Coming up the hill though, and there's going to be a bit of traffic as we come through Schwann's. That's going to put him off in towards the brake zone. McLean, he's going to have to send it up the inside there. That's going to slow down his exit as well. Moore follows through, but that could have been a lot worse for Woodhatch.
Yeah, and these are the moments that really define the battles, and we're seeing similar stuff going on further down in that spot for the final podium battle as they work their way once again in towards that S's section. They are going to be side by side. It's going to be Webster and Dawson. This is for 4th position in towards the corner and getting on through and allowing Matthew Crisp, a bit more of a separation up towards the front. So much going on though that no matter where you look, there are cars running around this track. There isn't much clean air to be found for the leaders.
Yeah, certainly not. As I wonder, is James Pinkerton into the pit lane? Maybe one of the first drivers coming into the pit lane so far as to get close to that halfway point in the race. Here we've got another driver in the background there. That's Christopher Humphreys in the orange number 9. That was just getting out of the way, and there comes the 35 machine in towards turn 1. We're still getting some lapped traffic for these cars to operate through already, and they're doing a good job of it so far. Just a couple of awkward moments, but of course the battles continue as Rolliston still continuing his battle, 17th place overall.
And so 3 Pro-Am drivers in a fight of their own, with of course Philip Webb running 2nd in Am, and that's a valuable points haul. And if you're wondering how the points are scored and divvied up, again we mentioned that they're scored per class, but 20 points for the class winner, 16 points for 2nd, 15th for 3rd, and you can work out the rest from there. Take 1 point away as we go down from there. 4 points though the gulf between 1st and 2nd. Cam, there is very much an incentive to winning these races.
Absolutely. When you have a situation like this where it's 1 point per position, but then you get that big jump at the front, that means if you finish, first basically every race and then 2nd in the final race, and that's a lot better than trying to come back later on in the season. Trying to get that extra jump on your rivals is very difficult because of course it's technically 4 positions rather than just that one. Well, drives off here, Daryl Taylor. Some others go into the pit lane, and where is that? It's coming up, of course, in towards Coppice. Must have had a bit of a spin at McLean's.
I like it, just like, oh yeah, probably around that same section that we've seen plenty of other dramas already. We're almost halfway through this opening round as well, and it's only a 4-race season. 4 hours of competition may sound like a lot, but by the time we get to the end of this race, we'll already have just 3 left to go in the season. Seems like that was a bit deep into the braking zone, I thought for a second. Ben Cooper's lost a little bit more time this last lap by, and now the margin up to Paul LeMay, 10 full seconds, so your Pro-Am leader looking very, very comfortable, it would seem. I don't think you can say the same still for the leader of the Pro class, as surely halfway through this race, klaxon going off for drivers to come down pit lane. Nathan Moore might be thinking about trying to get a bit of an undercut going.
Absolutely, I think it's going to be the way that he needs to. He needs to try this. The lap times are still looking good though. Last lap was still about a 10th or less than that, about half a 10th off the fastest lap. So we're not seeing a huge drop off. So I wonder if more of a traffic situation or something. Looking where you're going to come out in the attack is going to be something, a bigger factor maybe for when you want to do your pit stop as you come through the halfway point in the race. For the first time, they get to that pit entry, but neither of them chooses to pit just yet. They're going to wait it out.
And that's the point, right, as well. The fact that we haven't seen too much fall off in speed is why I feel like an undercut is a good idea. What? Indeed, Cam.
Just the lap times last time around, all of a sudden, a 22.3 for Woodhatch and a 22.2 for Moore. They are pushing each other to the limit. That just goes 3/10 quicker than what they were doing previously.
That's a good point, and that is the fastest lap for Woodhatch, but still not faster than what Moore has punched in, sitting behind him in the slipstream on occasion. Goes to show the power of the draft and the opportunities that it sometimes will give you. Woodhatch a little bit wide. Opportunity to sling it up the inside. Nathan Moore doesn't need a second invitation, and rising up through Coppice, gets his nose in front, but on the run into the S's, outside now converts some momentum. Woodhatch has to try and be brave. He's going to have to surely back out of this one. A swap back towards the front, and our Polson and Moore is back on top.
After half an hour, it's one little mistake that swaps around the race lead. They've been battling so hard. They've even gone side by side at times, but Moore hasn't been able to find his way through until now. And is this going to be an opportunity to go into the pit lane? Let's see this from the onboard. Coming into McLaren's down a couple of gears, just going ever so slightly wide. It's just a couple of centimeters, but it's enough to lose that momentum up the hill and relinquish the race lead.
And you can see that even though the corner does open up, he did have to lift out of it as Moore did effectively get the elbow out, but clean, respectful racing, I think, on both sides there. And the margin back to Matthew Crisp, to James Dawson and Dan Webster in the fight for the final step on the podium will mean that these two, still with traffic to work through, yes, will know that they can potentially still intensify their wheel-to-wheel action without bringing those back in like they did, going side by side for half a lap before. Traffic is also, given how frenetic it's been and how frequent it's been relatively tidy. Woodhatch will lose out a little bit there as he goes around the outside. But all things considered, these two haven't lost out too much either side.
Not too much, and I'm just thinking though, Moore did have a bit of a gap though, even considering that before that traffic that we just saw. I wonder if the reason why he was all over the back of Woodhatch for the first half an hour is because he was a slightly faster driver. Let's see if that is going to be the way. He has the lead now, he's got the clear air, and he might be able to just 10th by 10th even, just start to pull away and start to put his mark down for the lead of this race. Overall, they haven't pulled too far away from Chris and Dawson in behind, as we're getting some pit stoppers now.
Yeah, we are seeing more and more drivers come into pit lane. That is Adam Grevson rolling away in the number 54 machine, but here comes Nathan Moore to the line, still staying out there as is Crofton Woodhatch, but with the margin, the separation, 1 full second. Fortunately, Grevson coming out of pit lane doesn't interject himself into their battle, but he's deposited directly alongside the likes of Peter Reed and Darrell Taylor. Taylor, of course, another driver that's already finished up their mandatory pit stop.
And there is a fast reverse. Oh, contact! Huge contact into the old hairpin. Off into the barrier he goes. I wonder if there was a little bit of an early break or just a misjudgment there between the two coming down. Definitely an awkward situation. Not something you see. It's not the biggest braking zone there.
No, not indeed. And we'll grab a look at the replay. But as Paul LeMay brings it in from the Pro-Am lead, he's followed in by Martina Ward in that purple and black, Radical SR10 as well. Seemingly, we found the mark where Cam drivers want to work their way down into the box.
Yeah, it makes sense to go about halfway into the race, as all this is battles. Dawson coming up the inside there to get himself onto the provisional podium as it stands. Crisp dropping down. He's been out third place for a little while now, but just not able to hold on. And I wonder if there's any sort of traffic reason for that, or is this just a huge opportunity? Oh, down the inside. Is that going to be a big send from Webster? He might be able to make it on the exit.
And just on power down, able to get into the throttle range a bit earlier, and now Dawson drives away. Crisp still alongside in those Oakentech NHR colors, will hold on to the spot and maybe peel off to the lane. Yes, indeed. Holds it tight off the apex, and, well, first pro machine inside of the top 5 to come down to pit lane. It's the 18 that makes the gamble.
Let's see what is going to be better, undercut, overcut, or is there going to be something else that we have to factor in? Maybe the traffic as we come back to the front. Moore with their 1.5 second lead, just a couple of laps after getting into that position, and he's really starting to pull away from Woodhatch.
It's now potentially going to come down to execution in the box. Can Woodhatch get back up towards the front? We know he's got enough speed to frustrate Nathan Moore, that's for sure. as that was Darrell Taylor running a little bit wide. He'll lose out in his quest to try and accumulate some more pro points, but it's a relatively lengthy trip down the pit lane for all of these drivers. Matthew Crisp, he will be very, very pleased, very fortunate as well, Cam, has found himself in buckets of clean air.
That's exactly what you want. You want to get out of your pit lane and you want to get back into the rhythm. You want to have that clean air to be able to do that. You can get every single braking point, every single sort of reference in your eye line. I don't have any other cars blocking that and getting involved with that. It's definitely an important one for your speed on the outlap, which can be so important. Here's James Child. He's exiting the pit lane in the 0-5 machine, currently down in that 16th place already. We have seen a pretty big field spread so far, but of course we do need the leaders to come in for their pit stops, where they'll lose about 30 odd seconds.
And speaking of, well, at least for Dawson and for Webster, going to see more Woodhatch and McCutcheon all stay out there. It's into the box, and because it's such a big field and a small pit lane at Donington, they have to share some of their stalls. Now remember, we have already seen Matthew Crisp off and away, 15.4 seconds. Watch the left side of your screen. Watch those pit stop times. Who's going to drop and roll first? Well, 16 seconds is going to be the margin for James Dawson. And so we run in towards that opening corner, waiting to be released off the limiter. Crisp up to speed, will slide up the inside and back into net third spot.
And Dawson, I think, was a 17.8, so he's lost a couple of, Webster, I should say, 17.8, so he's lost a couple of seconds from that one and really dropped off that battle. He's right involved with Crisp and Dawson, but now he's going to have to do a lot of chasing down as he's, that's more than a couple of seconds that he's lost in that overall, to be honest, because he's now about 4 seconds back.
So Adam Locke, the AM leader, is in. Phil Webb yet to pit in that bright orange number 6, and so he takes over the AM lead for the time being, trying to keep an eye on all of these different inter-class battles as well. Boy, what a wild season we are in for to try and keep a beam of everything. So Crisp and Dawson, they're going to fight amongst themselves as the klaxon goes off to signify that one of the leaders is in. It's Crofton Woodhatch that blinks first.
Oh, this is going to be a nice one. See the battle between these two. Look at the pit stop time as well. That's potentially going to be an important one with how they're going to get to the end. A couple of seconds, of course, being the margin. And if we saw the difference between Webster and Crisp, or Webster and Dawson that time around, so only 14.7. That is incredible. That's about 3 seconds faster than what Webster did. That could be important for when Moore comes in for his stop.
But Moore was sitting behind and potentially was saving fuel as well, so that will be the consideration. Now, Moore does have a bit of traffic on this lap, so as Woodhatch tries to get himself back up to speed, that will be the thing to watch. So as Ben Cooper brings his number 32 in towards the pit lane, well, let's wait and see where he fares out. Not relative to Paul LeMay, who's already gone and through turn 1, back into the lead of the class. But in the Pro-Am equation, I think Ben Cooper is going to be relatively comfortable. Second, back on track.
Yeah, nice, nice stuff there. Just with the with the gap, the lead that they had, and of course loads of drivers pitting already gives them some very nice positions when they come out of pit road. And certainly is going to be able to use that very nicely for the all-important outlap. There is Adam Locke, who we were talking about a little bit earlier, leading the way. He's going to retake the AM lead as Webb and a couple of drivers, Yilmaz, into that pit lane. So Locke from the back of the grid, really doing well. Moore comes in to respond.
And so, again, what was the number? 14.7. That's what Nathan Moore is trying to hit as Crofton Woodhatch in through the final corner. This is painful for drivers. Revs the engine and it's another 14.6 seconds. They're almost identical. The mark, 1.2 seconds coming into the pit stop cycle, and it's going to stay relatively constant, although with traffic playing a part, Woodhatch is still in the mix. Don't count out the number 20.
Yeah, didn't lose any time really over the course of the pit stop. Didn't gain any either, but that's certainly a good one because now he has half a chance in this second stint. He definitely has gained a few tenths overall because, of course, it depends how fast you come into the pit lane, how well you execute that final corner. That is important as well. Here's McCutcheon and Dawson just in behind trying to chase him down.
And McCutcheon has leapfrogged some cars in this cycle. He's now up 6 positions over the course of this race. Dawson and Chris, we thought they were fighting for third. Well, right now they're fighting for fourth and trying to claw back onto the back of that number 69, the all-white of Dawson, the Ogentech NHR colours of Matthew Crisp, up through the top of turn 7 and toward that S's complex once more, and with traffic in front of them, which way will it go? It goes to the left, and pulls out of the way. Comment in the YouTube chat, Crofton is a way better driver than his dad, Go Crofton. I hope that's the father, and I'm not going to get in trouble for reading that comment on air.
Yeah, potentially some family rivalries there, but Hutchinson here very much under attack now as Dawson is trying to get the run in towards the final corner. We see a mixture of braking zones in towards that final corner. Is it going to be a bit deep from Hutchinson? No, he manages to keep it down just about, but a nice three-way battle here for that final place on the podium, as of course they need to look slightly back for Webster, but he has got 2 cars in between, so it might end up being a 4-car battle, but for now just the 3.
And so while they fight for third, it's a little bit of a traffic party for those up towards the front. If you're Woodhatch, you can't afford to be too hasty right now. The last thing you want to do is breach the incident limit, which potentially you could find yourself relatively close to after a pretty chaotic start to the race. Moore's going to get the 2-for-1 special, though, as he slides up the inside, and that's a mark of an experienced driver. Not being too flustered with the traffic, gave up a 10th or 2 initially, gets it back on the exit.
Yeah, that was a very awkward moment, potentially, with a couple of lap drivers trying to overtake each other, but he managed to get through there. And of course, potentially with the blinking car just being a little bit annoying as well, and actually just having a slow run there through the Fog TSs. Woodhatch should be able to get the traffic in towards the Melbourne hairpin as well. Up the inside is going to be...
That's James Dawson, and surely not going to squeeze his way on through, and now compromises himself. Cam, here comes Matthew Crisp.
He certainly does, in towards the hairpin, side by side. Crisp on the inside there. Can he make it stick just up the inside? Apex he's going to have, and on the exit, he's going to get the run in towards the final corner. So effectively 2 positions lost there for Dawson, or 1 not gained, and then 1 place lost.
Lovely stuff so far. It's a lot of fun. The action that we're seeing from these drivers, and it's not just contained to the pros. You go back to the Pro-Ams, and well, Martina Ward, James Child, they're finding themselves locked in a fight for 10th overall, for 4th in class. And we mentioned that, of course, some of these drivers have had big gains. Well, I just want to reiterate, for Adam Locke, 24 positions gained. Now, only the positions gained in class score him points, but it's staying out of trouble, Cam, that's put him in this position.
And I wonder if this could be a situation that we'll see over the course of the season, because it's done on iRating. As we said, if you're maybe a bit newer to iRating, then maybe you have less less iRating, and therefore you're better than some of the other drivers. We'll have to see if that's going to work out as this battle is continuing. Hutchinson has been able to get away just a little bit. That's left Dawson and Crisp to have their battle. Webster's closing second by second in the background as well as this battle continues, but Dawson, after looking for that 3rd place, is now starting to really drop away from that battle.
Yep, this is the cost of fighting sometimes, and we saw it with the leaders. The half a lap they went side by side. Suddenly 2 became 5 for the lead, and we're seeing that, at least for the time being, McCutcheon able to slide through in that bright orange machine, maybe just more visible in the mirrors than a all-white machine that maybe is reflected with some glare. But as Nathan Moore punches in a new fastest lap of the race, it's a 1:22 at 2:29. That 2/10 quicker than Woodhatch behind, slowly building that margin up and holding steady at the front.
Yeah, they're looking so strong, and it's that consistent pace that I just can't quite get over as well. The amount of laps where they're within, a 10th or 2/10 of that time, they've really just got dialed into this car, and that's why they've pulled away. A 12-second gap to the 3rd place driver as well, and even from the mid-pack is really looking good. Yeah, look at these times. So many just with, a 10th, couple of 10s here and there. And bearing in mind the traffic that they're going through, the battles that they had, that is a really good showing.
Yeah, and I mean, yes, you see +2 seconds here and there. Those are usually just sort of traffic laps. Those were the first 23 laps. Here's what we've seen since. It's basically just 1:22s when they're in clean air and able to push to their very limit in a car that is designed to push the limits of the drivers. See how they go, though, with now 15 minutes left to run. What are the weather conditions looking like? How has it progressed? Well, still cold, still windy, still blustery here at Donington Park.
Yeah, ever to be expected, and it doesn't seem like it's going to be getting any better for them. 3 p.m. In the afternoon in the sim, and therefore it's just going to be getting slightly colder potentially over the course of the final 15 minutes, although the temperature has been pretty stable throughout the race so far. And is that a slight improvement? Yes, it is. It's a 2:23 now, by 0.06 of a second, retakes the purple number.
It's not fair, is it, when you're able to put in lap times that consistently? Cam, you and I, we've done our fair share of racing. But yeah, when you get into that sort of a rhythm, and that's sometimes what you need, right? The flow with the car. Nathan Moore has definitely found that here today. fixed setup is always what makes it interesting, though. Will he click with the car in the same way when we head over to Snetterton?
Yeah, drivers are very sensitive to balance, especially, and most fixed setups that we use for series like this, they are going to be pretty decent setups, to be fair, but sometimes the driver will just have that feel for the car being a little bit more oversteery and that sort of stuff, and if you can sort of play with your driving style, of course you'll just gain a little bit. So to come into a series and to just absolutely nail the car and get on top of the speed is, very, it's a very good job when you're able to do that. It's not very easy indeed, and that's why open setup can be better in some ways because you have a little bit of control with that. But here, you definitely have to get on top of it.
Yeah, you definitely do. Philip Webb, by the way, who was only 8 seconds or so behind the AM leader in class, does find himself under pressure from the Pro-Ams. Now remember, the points won't change if Grevson and Bennyworth both get through in this same order. As third lap in a row, Nathan Moore finds another 0.06 of a second. Oh, it's becoming a trend. The margin just grows at the front. But Philip Webb will not lose points if Grevson and Bennyworth get on through. And at the same time, might be able to follow these drivers to close on the 555. It's one of those things that makes these multi-class races where everyone's in the same car so fascinating at times.
Yeah, it might be a good idea for Webb because he is, at least on the last lap, he is slower than Locke. So if he can try and get in that slipstream, Bennyworth as well doing some good laps. So if he can try and follow those two through, that might be a good opportunity, at least not to fight when having the battle themselves. In towards the final corner, though, we're going to be seeing a change for the top 10. Ward gets past Child.
Now remember, 4th in the Pro-Am, so these are drivers fighting for just 1 point here and there, but valuable points in the short season. Bennyworth officially does get in front of Phil Webb, and you would suspect that now Webb's going to try and follow and latch on to the back of the rest of the drivers and follow on through as well. Child and Ward swap around once more. It's been a nice chopping and changing party between the two of them, but crucially off of the podium battle where Paul LeMay's had a quiet day. That's often the best sort of day that you can have, Cam, at least from a broadcaster perspective.
Yeah, we do like the action-packed races more once again.
Come on!
That is incredible. Yeah, it's a 2:07, so another 0.07 of a second. Look at those 4 laps in a row. That is ridiculous.
Can we send Nathan Moore into his own category by himself?
Well, a Pro Plus.
Exactly, there you go. You know how Formula 1 now has Formula 1.5 as well?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's kind of what I feel like we might need to do if they... that, again, I mean, that level of consistency, it boggles the mind at times, and hopefully not close to an incident limit either as we head into these dying stages. I do wonder for some of these drivers that have been pushing track limits, been involved in some of the physical fighting, how close they will be, because 15x sounds like a lot, but I promise you, Cam, it's not.
It's really not, considering we're on lap 35. So that means that's basically one every more than every second lap so far, and it is somewhat easy to do. And if you have a 4x as well with some contact, you can really wrap up the incident points very, very quickly. There's always a bit of a slowdown there from Chris, but I think he had a bit of a break on the exit, so that would be a 1x for him, I would assume.
Yeah, and just more importantly, I think from the perspective of 12 minutes to go, less than 12 minutes in this race, just loses some time. Oh, come on. He did it again.
That is remarkable. He is what we call in the zone. And I wonder if this is a point. This actually must prove the tyres on this car must be absolutely awesome, because to do laps like this in a row, you have to have the consistency of the car as much as the driver, but the car has to be there. So he's got, absolutely dialed into the car. He is in the zone. The tyres are working well. And maybe that's just a bit of fuel drop for those couple of thousandths of a second, just a couple more kilos out of the car every lap.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty impressive showing. It's not bad, is it? And it's now 4-time British Touring Car Champion Ash Sutton, right? 4-time?
Yeah, 4. Yeah. Just won it this year.
Yeah, so 4-time champion we'll be watching on, and I'll be quite happy that his Pure Sims Esports team is running quite well. Let's see how this battle behind continues to go, though, as Rolliston in the Pro-Am machine will now be the next one to close up to the back of Philip Webb, second, of course, in the AM category. And I think behind then, it's quite a ways back to the next of the AM machines. You have to go back to 23rd, where Gabriel Yilmaz is fighting for the final step on the podium in this AM category.
And that is a very important one as well. Remember, the prize is per class as well for the champions. So yeah, the winner in the AM category in terms of prize is as important. Oh, that's a huge lock up though into the hairpin.
That's a big mistake. Opportunity for the 36 to slide on forward, and as easy as you'd like. 10 minutes ago, position swapped around. Yeah, 2 hospitality tickets to a Radical Cup UK round of their choice to the winners of each class. And I will just say, it's always great to go and see motorsports in action. So I would encourage all of these drivers to go to a Radical Cup UK round. But it's always nicer to be spoiled and be alongside motorsport.
Oh, definitely. It's a great experience if you can get yourself on the track. Just the sights, the sounds, the smells, you just don't get that from the television, of course. So it's definitely a complete different experience. And along with that, the hospitality packages, everything that will come with that, and all the luxuries just make it that bit nicer. So I'm sure whoever is the champion, they'll have a great experience of those rounds.
And it would be fun if all 3 champions ended up at the same round as well. I'd be curious which ones they would want to go see. Of course, there's geographical things that would come into play and restrictions with driving and stuff, but which track most appeals to them? Hopefully we'll get the chance to chat with a couple of the drivers in about 10 minutes time or so, because we are heading back towards the line where we're going to see your race leader cross once more and complete the 37th lap of this race. Probably got about another 6 or so to go, navigate through some lap traffic. At the very least, Cam, the fastest laps have dropped off now.
Yeah, definitely. It's difficult to keep that one going, but last lap was still a 0.25, so only a tenth or less than a tenth off the best lap. So that is, and that might just be because a bit of traffic as well, just having to slightly ultra line into one corner. So but still, ridiculous pace to have, what's that, about 6 laps in a row, all within about a tenth of a second of each other. Yeah, that's something, to be honest. At any level of motorsport, that is incredible consistency.
We often talk in hushed voices about, the stints that the likes of Michael Schumacher have done in Formula One to do lap after lap after lap of qualifying pace. But yeah, this is as well, with so much traffic playing its part as well, being really fascinating. I think there was a brief lights flash there from Woodhatch, just trying to slide on through, not being too forceful, too aggressive. Realizes that Nathan Moore might be the faster driver today, but 4 points the difference between first and second. All it takes is one bad result for Nathan Moore, for Crofton Woodhatch to take advantage of the grab to the victory, and suddenly that championship equation has swung around, and quite drastically as well. It'll be a couple of weeks before we're racing once more. It's November 10th, round 2. That's Netterton.
Yeah, and with just a 4-round championship, you're very right with what you were saying a bit earlier. Every single point counts, because you can't have a bad round. There's not enough time to make up for it. You've got to be coming out swinging, and especially in the first race of a season, Moore has just put the gauntlet down for everyone to follow through, because Woodhatch gave a good battle for the first half of the race, but has dropped off by over 3 seconds now. But then look at the gaps behind as well. 13 seconds the gap back to McHutchinson, and 20 back to Webster for just your top 6 drivers. So Moore's looking very, very good, at least from this first race.
And while we watch those further back in this Pro-Am class, I had not been keeping a great eye, I'll be completely fair and honest, on Paul LeMay's speed. We've been praising Nathan Moore's speed at the front of the Pro class, but what was once a 10-second margin in about 20 minutes has been cut to 2.5, and Ben Cooper is on a charge. Ben Cooper is flying. Last time by was one of just a handful of drivers into the 122s, and looks to try and bring that gap down to his class leader to under 2 seconds.
Yeah, 3/10 last lap, and the best lap of each of their races as well. He's almost 4/10 faster, so I think he's got the speed. As you say, LeMay was there potentially more out of consistency in that first part of the race, but maybe not the overall speed, as Cooper's trying to come back. 5.5 minutes though. Is there enough time to get those final couple of seconds and then make the overtake? We'll have to certainly find out, but if LeMay continues to hemorrhage time, then that might be a really nice battle in the final couple of laps.
You can see the hands working, the body and the head moving around in the Radical SR10 as they bobble out of the final corner. Remember, 420 odd horsepower, 700 odd kilos. It's a relatively light car, and it's an aerodynamic beast. You can see that splitter at the front, the way that the aero is all moved around with purpose. I will be honest, you know what it kind of reminds me of? We have plenty of new prototypes in the real and virtual worlds for 2023. It kind of reminds me of the Acura GTP.
You mean with the look on the front end?
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. It doesn't have sort of the big bullhorn thing, whatever you want to call it, across the front in this quite the same way. Oh, huge send up the inside, almost there, in towards McLean's flashing of the lights. That is going to be certainly losing some time.
And that's the universal sign of I'm a car who's faster, therefore please get out of my way. And it's already cost a couple of tenths there to Cooper, who did lose some ground of his own, scampering past the 37 of Yilmaz, but not too much time at the end of the day. Bled off that left-hand side of the screen. Carl Chase has just taken a tow back to pit lane and become an unfortunate victim of this race that has really not had too much drama, all things considered, when it comes to retirees. I don't think that the on-track action necessarily reflects in that, but here's a look at what happened out of pit lane for the number 91.
I mean, this is looking fairly calm right now. Didn't quite see it, unfortunately, but obviously just losing the rear end there, spinning up the wheels on the exits of Redgate. So that maybe on some slightly cooler tyres, and then cooling down into the pit lane, and then just not being able to get on the power as you would have wanted. Maybe a bit wide there, like we just saw Cooper as he tries to chase down. The issue for him, 2 lapped cars in between. 2 lapped cars, and where is Nathan Moore? You may be wondering. Well, the race leader is just heading off to the S's, so I do believe that at the line we should have still 2 laps, maybe 3 laps to go. So these drivers do still have a couple of laps with which to battle, and we already saw Paul LeMay was a little bit desperate to try and make a move to get clear of some of these cars. Ben Cooper is going to have to potentially make a similarly desperate move in towards the S's. It will funnel once more, and one of the drivers pulls aside. That's exactly what Cooper would have wanted to see. Yep, very little to no time lost there, and then coming through the Foxy S's, he can see that turquoise machine getting closer and closer as he comes in towards the hairpin now. It's going to be a last lap send if he gets there, surely. He's not going to have that much time. It's going to be one and done if he wants to make this move. 10 seconds down to just 1 with a couple laps to go. It's a remarkable charge, that's for sure. There is Nathan Moore, so a confirmation that indeed I do believe that we are going to see an additional lap beyond the 2 that we were expecting. It's apparently the first iRacing championship for Crofton Woodhatch, which I do have to say, and to have held up against Nathan Moore, someone that I've commentated on plenty of times in those Pure Sims colors in various top-level championships. I'll be quite happy with the performance. There's only more to come, you'd expect, from this number 20. Yeah, that is an incredible stat. If that is true, he's certainly put on an amazing performance. Of course, just dropped off a little bit in this second stint of the race, but that first stint held on to the lead, had awesome battles, and really put it out. So the experience will just, increase every single race, and just be soaking up like a sponge. And then maybe by the end of the season, we'll see a big battle. Look at this battle; it's getting very close now. Final bit of traffic for Cooper. This could be important if he gets it into the Foxy S's, and he has. That was the 390 of Cheverton, who I think was able to pull on to the side and let Cooper through. So they will have 2 laps to go when they get to the stripe. The question will be, how much can they afford to push? Big wiggle for both drivers as they try and put down the engine torque to the ground. Oh, Ben Cooper's had a remarkable day. Remember, he was spun around earlier. To come back and to be able to come on top, there's so much on the line, but at the same time, is it really worth putting it all out there? 4 points the difference between first and second with 2 laps for these drivers to go. I would say it is. The extra points alone are worth it, let alone just the pride of getting the victory in the class. And down the hill, that may be a slowdown or something's gone wrong there. Ben Cooper takes the lead in class. And what a turnaround for Cooper after starting up in 4th in the overall combined field. He's had to drive his way back to the lead, and he's done so with aplomb. Now, a lap and a half to go, because here comes Nathan Moore heading towards the very final corner, ready to take the white flag. 1 more lap to run in the first round of the 2023 Radical Esports UK Cup. It's not without some drama, but white flag in hand, Nathan Moore sees it with a clean car. Yeah, he's been so fast that by those extra couple of seconds, he has to go round one more time. A victory lap, potentially, as long as he keeps it on the track for the final sort of 4 kilometers or so of his day. And what a day it has been. He had to work hard for those. McHutchinson goes purple, and that is a huge lap. Yeah, it is. It's a 0.123. He's got some speed coming into the final lap. I'm
pretty sure we saw some support for McHutchinson as well. He leapfrogged the field in the strategy, and fastest lap in the closing stages, pipping Nathan Moore. Moore doesn't have time to respond, you'd think, either. Here, by the way, is, well, Adam Locke. Quiet day to have climbed up 24 positions, but will ultimately be delighted with the class win as Paul LeMay. Maybe that's why there was some slow times into pit lane, maybe running short on fuel.
Yep, that must have been what he did, underfueled at the pit stop, and that's why he would have been slower that whole stint. He realised it early on and decided to try and save, and he might just be able to hold on to the podium in class. That'll be important for the points as well, just 1 extra point lost from that.
Comes out just in front of Child, but at the same time, maybe the extra lap that Nathan Moore made the field do was the cause of the consternation there for LeMay. But as he fights for a podium spot, it's Nathan Moore out of the final corner, and the winner of the 2023 Radical Esports Cup season opener, and stealing back the fastest lap with a 1:21.9 at the very final attempt. Goodness, what a drive it was. Crofton Woodhatch will be delighted with his performance to steal second as well, while John McHutchinson will grab third as we wait now, Cam, for Ben Cooper to come to the line.
What a deserved victory it is going to be for Cooper, chasing down. He put the right amount of fuel in his car, and he had the speed to prove it. Now to the final corner, he'll take victory in the Pro-Am, and he certainly had to work hard for it, overcoming a 10-second deficit in that final stint, but he got it done, and he takes it to the line.
He's definitely also running short on fuel, it would seem, and Paul LeMay is stationary. Might not have gotten the fuel into the car and needs the tow back to the lane. Oh, heartbreaking for the 272 who led for so long. Will be now classified as the final car on the leading lap, you would assume. We'll wait for the rest of the drivers to get their way to the checkered flag, but what an opening round for us, Cam. And now, of course, a couple of weeks off before we return. And over at Snetterton, I think expectations are going to be high.
Yeah, they absolutely are. There's Adam Locke coming across the line to take victory in the AMs as well, making up so many places, 25 in the end in the overall standings, to take victory by a country mile in class. But certainly an important race for a lot of these drivers. Definitely enjoyed that one. Awesome battling. This car has proved to be really good, especially over that 1 hour race format.
I think we were a bit unsure as to how a 1 hour race in these Radicals was going to work, but I think our worries have been quashed, and we were very much treated to a fantastic display. And as the cars worked their way around to see the start-finish line and potentially to see some victory donuts for Nathan Moore, let's run you down through the race results, where 8 seconds the margin of victory, but ultimately Crofton Woodhatch frustrated Nathan Moore before, after putting it on pole position, he was able to battle back to the front and pull away with fastest lap after fastest lap. First iRacing Championship for Crofton Woodhatch, though, and what a start to it. Second for him. Third for John McHutchinson. It's a more difficult name to say than it sounds like, it seems, fast on commentary. James Dawson and Matthew Crisp will round up the rest of your top 5, slipping back in the closing stages, while Dan Webster, the final pro car in front of a Pro-Am. It was Ben Cooper that was able to fight back to the class win. Andy Jones, James Child on the podium as well, while Martina Ward makes up the final spot in the top 10, 4th in class. And in front of the first AM driver, Adam Locke will be thrilled as this 555 makes his way into 11th. His team boss, Max Spooner, seemingly thrilled as well. Adam Grebson was the final car scored on the leading lap. Paul LeMay unfortunately drops to 13th, and I think only 6th will seem like a bit of a disappointment for him. Ben Bennyworth behind, and then David Rolliston in front of second AM driver Philip Webb, who will grab plenty of points to accumulate for his scorecard. Robert Woodward, the cars then behind for pros, Pro-Ams, mixed in once more, James Pinkerton, Paul Clark, and then Darrell Taylor, the rest of your top 20. It's Matt Cheverton then getting into the 21st spot, and as we work our way into the majority of the AM class, it's Scott Norvisa that's the final car on the podium in class, and Gabriel Yilmaz is 23rd overall, with Damien Gee, Ben Weston, Lewis Benny, Stephen Kernick, Peter Reed, Chris Humphreys, and Andy Thomas, the rest of the top 30. 31st for Janeman Proust, who did finish this race, albeit after being involved in drama in the very opening stages of the race. Carl Chase, Graham Brown, Jack Ellis, Oliver Moore, Toby Warden, Mike Busson make up the rest of the used car lot here at Donington Park. We'll give it a few moments for the drivers to come and join us to hopefully get some post-race coverage going, but we can look forward while we wait. Snetterton lies in store November 10th, and it's another track with unforgiving track limits, Cam.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a big talking point there, I'm sure. And overall, a track that has quite a few fast corners again, so I think it is going to suit that car. But what we saw, especially in the opening couple laps, was the braking was very tricky. And of course, turn 2 there, the Montreal hairpin as well. And then a couple of other slower hairpins at that track. So definitely going to be an important one. And I think the racing there is going to be just as good as what we saw here at Donington. So overall, the championship is going to be opening up very nicely with the first 2 tracks.
And we haven't really talked about it outside of at the very start of the race, but we did have a standing start. Upholstered and Nathan Moore didn't drop the clutch maybe in the most optimal of ways, and so that's something else. It's a couple of weeks away before we go racing once more in a car maybe that they don't all have the same levels of experience in. They will be focused on maybe just dialing in that first phase of the race just that little bit more. Still standing by to see if the Pro or Pro-Am winners can come and join us. In fact, right on cue, they have all lined on up. Let's head down for some post-race coverage where Cam Rogers first standing by with your Pro Class winner, Nathan Moore.
Absolutely. And Nathan, what a race you have just had. You had to really work hard for it, though. Crofton was putting an awesome fight up ahead. Actually, first of all, let's talk about that side-by-side battle you had about 20-odd minutes into the race. For pretty much the whole lap, you went side-by-side. How was that from your point of view?
Yeah, it was great, to be fair. I needed to make sure I gave him just enough room, and he was the same. We were racing hard. It was a great lap. We kind of backed ourselves back into the pack a little bit, but yeah, it was Crofton was really on it today, and yeah, that side-by-side battle was very enjoyable. But yeah, I'm glad they've come out on top at the end.
And also into the second stint, of course, by that point you had the race lead. It was probably about 6 laps in a row that you were within a couple of thousandths of a second of each other. Your pace was relentless at the front. Were you just completely in the zone with this car?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it was just about getting into a rhythm after the stop. I think there was a little bit of a gap, about a second between us, and yeah, we were just trading lap times really. We were both of us very consistent at the front, and yeah, it was. I had to keep on it, otherwise he would have punished me, and vice versa. So, yeah, I was just in the zone the whole race, keeping my eyes peeled, of course, for the lap traffic as well. It was another element that was. Difficult, but we managed it okay, I think.
And looking forward to Snetterton, do you think you can repeat it there, or is it going to be a lot of hard work to get back on the pace?
At this moment in time, it'll probably be a bit of hard work. I don't even think I've run a lap of that track on iRacing before, so I know the layout. I know we all know Snetterton, but yeah, it's going to be a lot of practice. But I think if I put the time in, I can definitely be towards the front again.
Yeah, well, congratulations for your victory today. Maybe we'll speak to you next time.
Thank you.
And now we'll go to the AM race winner. Adam Locke is with Arjuna.
The 555 gained 26 positions over the course of the race. But Adam, let's talk about maybe the first 5 laps. Talk us through your perspective as the seas seemingly parted in front of you.
It makes a change because it's normally people spin and I get collected. So it was nice to actually have the seas part for me for a change and make the most of it.
And in this Radical SR10, we saw plenty of drivers struggling sometimes with the changing balance, cold conditions. Talk us through how you were feeling with the car itself, knowing that you had a big gap. All you were really trying to do was stay out of trouble, seemingly as plenty of drivers ran themselves afoul of that trouble.
Yeah, it was the first time ever racing Radicals, so I didn't know what to fully expect in race spec. But yeah, it was good. Once I got a gap, I just thought, keep it easy, don't push too hard, keep the track limit penalties down and try not to lock up or spin like I did in quali.
Well, 2 weeks or so until we're back underway at Snetterton. Can't wait to see how you'll go in that 555. Congratulations on the win, and go and celebrate this one.
Thank you, will do, thank you.
Adam Locke victorious in his very first race in an SR10. That's a good sign, and we'll jump back up to the pro class to have a chat with Crofton Woodhatch. Crofton, your YouTube fans let us know this is your very first iRacing series. You must be feeling pretty good with how that first race went.
Yeah, went well. Yeah, it was a tough race. Off tracks were a big thing for me. I had to back off towards the end as I was on 14 and nearly up, and so I would have had a drive through with one more. But other than that, it was good.
We were wondering how many drivers were running close up to the incident limit, so it's always good to get that insight. How were you feeling in that side-by-side battle? Nathan was telling us just how much he enjoyed it. You must live for some of the fights like that, because there was great respect shown on both sides.
Yeah, it was good fun. Nathan's obviously a very good driver, and this is my first pro race really, so I was taking it a bit cautiously, but no, it was fun. I enjoyed it.
We enjoyed it as well. Thank you so much, Crofton, for putting on a show, and we'll see you at Snetterton in a few weeks' time.
Thank you.
Crofton Woodhatch second on track, and always great to have a chat with the drivers. But yeah, as mentioned, it's a couple of weeks away, Cam, before we're back underway, and Nathan Moore's never driven a lap at Snetterton on iRacing, but he says he knows where it goes. It'll be interesting to see just how quickly he gets up to speed.
Yeah, I'm sure he will, because obviously if you start as being the fastest driver, let's say, at this track, even if he drops down a few tenths, he should still have some nice pace in that car, so I'm sure he's going to be looking good. And yeah, a couple of weeks between each race, so enough time to prepare as well. So hopefully we can get some really nice close battles like we saw today.
And yeah, as we wrap things up, like we both said, we haven't had the chance to drive this Radical SR10, but I get the feeling, Cam, that's going to change sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to be trying it out later, well, actually this weekend, I guess, when I got some free time. It looks like a load of fun. So yeah, I can't wait to wrestle that around some tracks.
And of course, the next round of this 2023 Radical Esports Cup UK will be hosted here live on the Motorsports UK channels and live on RaceSpotTV. So thank you so much for joining us for round one. There's still 3 more rounds to come. Snetterton, Brands Hatch and Silverstone. Plenty of drama, I'm sure, for us all to see. But for the team at RaceSpotTV, for Cam Roger alongside myself, Arjuna Kankipati, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you on November 10th, same time, same place, over at Snetterton for round 2 of the 2023 Radical Esports Cup UK.